name is Zenas Dismukes, and I will be giving a presentation on language. And the title for it is All Good. Today I will be speaking to you on the topic of language, and hopefully after you hear me speak, you'll be able to go out into the world and explain to somebody that all languages are good. Many people will perceive some as being less intelligent due to the fact that they are non-standard English speakers. Unfortunately, many people, especially educators, believe that non-standard vernacular itself is an obstacle to learning. It appears to me that the number one reason why they do this is to eliminate the language that we are proficient at speaking most, but we are now proud of. Now it has become not only an external but an internal struggle for us to be perceived as intelligent or successful because of the language. If schools consider someone's language inadequate, they'll probably fail. 3 facts I would like to bring up. 1, African American vernacular is not slang. 2, it also is not dialect. But 3, the systematic principle in which differs from those of standard English. There are 3 linguistic absolutes. 1, all languages are good. 2, all linguistic forms of rule, govern, and systematic. And then 3, as an infant and toddler, beginning as early as a pre-birth, we learn that language that is spoken in the home by the primary caregiver. According to Dr. Hotley, he believes that there are 3 absolutes to prevent a deficient perspective when looking at language. Number 1, all languages are good. For example, if someone is speaking Mandarin and then somebody speaking Latin, no one is better than the other, because that's just how each side communicates with each other. Number 2, all linguistic forms are ruled, governed, and systematic. For example, African American vernacular is a community competence of the United States slave descendants of African origin. Number 3, systematic and rule governed. This has been studied for the past 30 years, and it has come to the realization that Ebonics is simply not slang, nor is it lazy. And here are some examples of how that can be used. For example, if you say, some people, instead of saying desk, we say desk. Instead of saying test, we say test. And instead of saying cold, we say cold. One last example here, you can use it in a sentence. I have 50 cents. And then, in the African American home language, it is said, I have 50 cents, leaving off the S at the end of sentence. Lastly, I like the title for this one. You get it from your mom. Excuse me. Most humans acquires their home language between the ages of 0 to 4 years of age. I learned to speak from where I grew up with my grandparents and my mother. And being around them all the time, I picked it up and now I use it. As to if someone was in Britain and they had an accent, they pick up the accent as well, because that's what they hear at home and as their home language. One last quote, and this is from James Baldwin. A child cannot be taught by anyone who demands essentially is that the child repugnates his experience and all that gives him substance. In conclusion, hopefully it is clear that all languages are standard or otherwise are good. Languages in and of itself is not an indicator or intelligent or learning abilities. There is not one superior language. Our ties are bonds. Many generational cultures and structures and rule govern. Thank you for listening to my speech. Have a great night. And just for credibility, here are some of my references, and I hope that you have learned something new about languages. Thank you.